So in the previous video we had discussed about continuity equation. So in this we are going to understand the flow pattern. So just to give you a brief introduction about what is flow pattern. Anything that moves on this universe has got some path, right? It has got its own pattern in which it can move from one place to other place, right? So every living being also, including humans, every human has his own pattern when he walks. Okay, if you observe him closely, you could be able to trace or you could be able to identify the pattern in which he walks, right? So here water has also got a pattern, or we can even study the pattern in which the water flows or a fluid flows. Okay, so that is what we need to understand. So here there are some features from which we could be able to identify the pattern of any given flow. The first thing we can identify is by streamlines. Okay, I'll explain what is streamlines is. Next, the second is path line, streak line, and stream tube. Okay, I'll discuss about the stream tube once I discuss the streamline. First, let us go to streamline. So streamline is an imaginary line. Okay, if you draw a tangent at any point on the streamline, you will get the direction of the velocity. Okay, now see here, every fluid when it is flowing, it will create these streamlines. These streamlines are imaginary lines for any given instantaneous time. Like for example, if time t is equals to some 9:30 or something, at that particular time you can generate these streamlines. Okay, so these streamlines, if you draw a tangent at any point, it will give you the velocity. Okay, then from this resultant velocity you can calculate how much is the component of velocities in x and y. Okay, so that is what you need to identify. Now going to next thing, which is path line. Okay, now when you go to path line, path is basically the trace of an individual, right? So like for example, consider a molecule of fluid. When that molecule of fluid travels from one point to second point, you will trace the direction in which it has flowed. Okay, it has traveled. So that line, which is representing the path of the molecules, is represented by path line. Okay, streak line, as we know, streak is a pigment. Okay, streak basically represents a color dye. Okay, now you can what you can do is that to understand the pattern, we can drop a single color dye or something when there is a flow of water. So what happens is that color will get mixed with the water. Okay, so from that we could be able to identify what kind of flow it is. Okay, now just giving you a simple explanation over here for you to understand. Assume that there is a laminar flow and turbulent flow. I hope you already have studied what is laminar and turbulent flow. In the previous video, sir has explained you what is laminar and turbulent flow. In case of laminar flow, the water is flowing in a state of lamina. Okay, they are flowing in one over the other. Okay, so in case of turbulent flow, what happens? The water is not flowing in laminar state; it is flowing in an intermingling state. Okay, so basically the molecules in here are interchanging its flow path. Okay, here in this case, all the molecules are flowing in one single direction and in a laminar state. Okay, so there is no intermingling of water molecules, right? So in this case, assume if I drop any color, so here what happens is the color will get mixed up in that entire area or in that entire flow. In this case, if I drop a color dye or something here, it flows along the line. Okay, so this is your laminar state, this is your turbulent state. Okay, now this is what we can identify from streak line. Streak line basically explains this this kind of flow, whether the flow is turbulent or whether the flow is laminar, can be identified by streak line. Okay, now coming to these three flow patterns, one is streamline, path line, and streak line. I told you that streamline is representing the direction if we draw a tangent at any point. Now these all can be identical, they all can be similar when the flow is steady and uniform. If the flow is steady, the streamline, path line, and streak line. If the flow is uniform, streamline, path line, and streak line will remain same, they will not change. Okay, so these are some of the flow pattern. In the notes also I will give you the definitions, so from there you can get the definitions of these different flow patterns. So next is going with stream tube. So what we do is that whenever there is a flow, there are set of streamlines that are generated. Okay, so the collection of or the bundle of all these streamlines will represent the flow of water in a particular direction. Okay, the streamlines are basically explaining you the direction in which the water is flowing, right? So what this stream tube helps you understand is that the stream tube gives you the direction in which the water is flowing. Okay, so the stream tube is made up of series of or bundle of streamlines. Okay, so that is what stream tube is. Now one more thing that you need to identify with respect to stream tube is that the water or the molecule will not cut across this stream tube. There is no flow across the stream tube. The flow of water can't go in this direction. The flow always goes in a unidirectional flow. So this stream tube, by taking the example of stream tube, we could be able to solve one of the important continuity equation, one-dimensional continuity equation. Okay, right. So once you understand the flow pattern, what we will do is we will go to this one-dimensional continuity equation. Now I have already explained you what is stream tube is and how it behaves. Here stream tube is a set of streamlines. There are set of streamlines. This is imaginary thing. Okay, so in this we know for sure that the water will flow only in this direction. Within this stream tube, the water only flows in this direction. Okay, now this is the length of the stream tube, which is delta S. So at somewhere in the midpoint of the stream tube, we are selecting this cross section. Okay, at this cross section we are identifying how much is the flow. Okay, so let us first calculate how much is the mass of fluid that is flowing per second at the mid of the stream tube. Okay, so let me consider that the area over here is A and velocity here is V and rho be the density. Okay, so rho is represented by kg per meter cube. Area into velocity. See here, area is represented by meter square. Sorry, area is represented by meter square and velocity is represented by meter per second. Right. So okay. Now if I multiplied area with the velocity, it will give me meter cube per second. Okay, so this meter cube per second is being multiplied by kg per meter cube. So what is left over? It will be left over with kg per second. I told you what is kg per second in the previous video while solving the continuity equation. Kg per second is representing the mass of fluid that is flowing per second at this point. Okay, now once I identify how much is the mass of fluid that is flowing per second at the mid of the section, I would like to identify how much is the mass of fluid that is flowing from the entrance of the stream tube and the exit of the stream tube. Okay, so let us do that. Okay, let us try to identify how much is the mass of fluid that is entering from this phase and this phase. Okay, so the mass of fluid that is entering over here, we are going in the reverse direction. This is your delta S. Okay, the water is flowing in this direction. If we are coming from this phase to this phase, we have to use negative. Okay, so rho AV minus of change of rho AV into delta S multiplied by delta S by 2. Why delta S by 2? But the distance between this section to this section is delta S by 2. So that's why delta S by 2 has been multiplied. So minus symbol is because we are coming in the reverse direction. Now if you go in this direction, what will happen? The mass of fluid that is flowing per second inside the stream tube at this point will be rho AV plus of dou rho AV by dou S into delta S by 2. Okay, so here plus symbol because we are going in the direction of the flow, right? So once we solve how much is the mass of fluid entering at this point and this point, next we will calculate how much is the net mass of fluid that is flowing per second in the stream tube. So to calculate that, what I will take? I will take the sum of these two. Okay, sum of these two means what? Rho AV minus dou rho AV by dou S into delta S by 2. Here the direction you can see is opposite to the direction of flow, the direction of this mass of fluid. So that's why I have to take negative of this. So if I take the negative of rho AV plus of minus of dou rho AV by dou S divided by delta S by 2, if I am going to take the sum of this, rho AV will get cancelled. So what will be left over is minus 2 times of dou rho AV by delta S into delta S by 2. Okay, that is what I have written. 2 will get cancelled. This is a simplification of that. Okay, the similar thing we have done in the previous continuity equation also. So once we solve the net mass of fluid that is flowing per second in a stream tube, next is to find out how much is the change of mass of fluid in the stream tube. So again same thing. This net mass of fluid flowing in the stream tube is represented by this equation. I hope you remember this. Input minus output is equals to plus or minus change in storage. So input minus output has been calculated. Now let us calculate how much is change in storage. To calculate the change in storage, what I need to do is to first calculate how much is the volume of the stream tube. So the volume of the stream tube will be equal to rho into delta S, this A into delta S. So A is the area multiplied by the length will give you the volume of the stream tube. So once you know the volume of the stream tube, you will multiply with the rho, which is density. So that will give you how much is the mass within this stream tube. So I hope you remember this. Rho is represented by kg per meter cube. A into delta S is representing meter cube. So meter cube will get cancelled. It is left over with kg. So rho A delta S is representing the mass, right? So we need to take the derivative of mass with respect to time. So partial derivative of rho A delta S divided by dou T. Okay. Now what we do, we have to equate these two equations. The equation 1 has to be equated with equation 2. Now after equating, this is what we get. So minus of dou rho A by dou S is equals to dou rho A divided by dou T. Okay. Now going to steady state condition, what happens in case of steady state? The change of density with respect to time will become 0, right? If it becomes 0, this entire terms will become 0. So what is left over is dou rho AV by dou S equal to 0. Okay. Now integration of this will be equal to rho AV is equals to constant. Okay. Now if I consider that the density remains constant, right? If it is incompressible fluid, the density will remain constant. So in that case, AV will be equals to constant. Now coming to the physical explanation of what is this equation is, what this equation means. Okay. Now along this stream tube, if I take the cross section at various points, okay, I can calculate how much is the area at every point. So I can also calculate how much is the velocity here. So I can calculate how much is area. Let me call this as section 11. So at section 11 I can calculate how much is the area of the stream tube, and I can determine how much is the velocity at this point. So A1 multiplied by V1 will be equal to, now going to next point, which is section 2.2. At this point, if I calculate how much is the cross sectional area, which is A2, and I'll calculate how much is velocity V2. Now similarly, I'll go to third section. At this section also I'll calculate how much is A3 and V3. Now the product of A1 V1 should be equal to product of A2 V2, and it should be equal to product of A3 V3, and etc, etc, right? So this is what being given by this equation. Now let us find out what is this A into V is. Okay, so A being area, meter square, multiplied by velocity is meter per second. So what is this representing? It is meter cube per second. So what is this unit meter cube? Meter cube is representing volume. So volume by time. So the rate of change of volume is nothing but your discharge. Discharge is representing the volume of water that is flowing per second. Okay, so if you want to calculate how much is the discharge, how much is the volume of water that is flowing per second in the stream tube, you can calculate by this equation called A into V is equals to Q. Okay, or else we can say A1 V1 is equals to A2 V2 is equals to Q. So this is the one-dimensional continuity equation. From the one-dimensional continuity equation, we have derived this important equation called Q is equals to A into V, where Q is the discharge, and A is the cross-sectional area, V is the velocity at that cross-sectional area. Okay, this completes the continuity equation for one dimension. So here we are going to discuss about rotational flow and irrotational flow. While discussing about the different types of flow, which is steady flow, uniform flow, non-uniform flow, laminar flow, turbulent flow, sir had also given you this type of flow which is called rotational and irrotational flow. Let us go with the definition that was given to you. Let us try to understand what is rotational flow and what is irrotational flow. So if you try to observe any given fluid flow carefully, you can see that the fluid particle, if there is a particle of fluid, when it is moving from one place to other place, when it is turning from one place to other place, there is a possibility in which the molecule or the particle will rotate about its own mass center. Okay, assume some small particle. While this particle travels from one place to other place, while it is moving from one place to the other place, it is also rotating about its mass center like this. It will rotate and it will move in that particular direction. Okay, so there is a small experiment which you can do at your home to understand whether the water particles will rotate about its mass center while moving or not. So for that, what you can do is you can go to your sink. At sink, what you do is that you open up the tap, let the water flow into the sink. While the water is flowing into the sink, you take a small piece of paper and throw and just drop it inside the fluid flow. Okay, now you can see that the paper that you have flown, that you have dropped inside, it will start rotating about its mass center while moving inside the sink hole. Okay, so you can make this small experiment while to see whether every particle, fluid particle, will move about its mass center while moving or not. So if the fluid particles in any given fluid flow rotate about its mass center while moving, we call that kind of flow as rotational flows. Okay, so next thing is coming to irrotational flow. What is irrotational flow? Opposite to that of rotational flow is your irrotational flow. In irrotational flow, what happens? The molecules while moving from one place to other place, they are not rotating about its mass center. Okay, so that is what rotational flow and irrotational flow is. Now what we'll try to understand is we'll try to derive an equation to explain or to understand the rotational and irrotational flows. Okay, now to help you understand, there are different types of rotational flow and irrotational flow. One is one of the equation that we are deriving is this one, where the particle is rotating about its mass center. It is rotating about its mass center. Okay, now let me explain you this figure. In this figure, this is point P, which is of x comma y comma z. So we are considering true planes, x and y direction. So when you try to imagine the rotational flow, you have to imagine in all the three direction. Okay, now giving you all the three direction, what I'll do is I'll give you this example. Assume that this is your x, this is your y. Okay, and this direction will be called z direction. Okay, which is opposite, which is perpendicular to this board. Okay, that's why I'm showing a line like this. Imagine if there is a molecule or if there is a particle which is rotating like this. Okay, if it is rotating like this, so this rotation is taking place in the z direction. In the z direction, this particle is rotating. Okay, so these are the x and y values, right? Now you can imagine if I keep it here and if I rotate this particle over here, so now this particle is rotating about the x-axis and the plane on which it is rotating is y and z. Okay, you can imagine like this. So a molecule can rotate about all the three different directions. It can rotate in y direction, it can rotate in x direction, it can rotate in z direction. When it is rotating in z direction, it is on a plane of x and y. When it is rotating on a x axis, it is rotating on a plane of y and z. So if it is rotating in y direction, if it is rotating about the y axis, it is on a plane of x and z. Okay, that is what you need to understand here. So here what I'll do is I'll take the plane of x and y. Okay, so this is my plane x and y. This is x direction, this is y direction. This is the particle which is rotating, okay, about its mass center. Assume that this is your mass center. This point P is the mass center and it is rotating like this. Okay, there are two lines that we can draw. This line I'll call it as PA, this I'll call it as PB. Okay, this is the original position when it is at the origin. So the velocity at the point P in the direction of x is u. The velocity in the direction of y, we'll call it as v. So the component of velocities in x and y direction are u and v at point P. Now we'll go to point A. At point A, I would like to define what will be the velocity at point A in the y direction. Okay, now again I'll go to point B. At point B, I'll try to define how much is the velocity in the x direction. Okay, right. Now going to find out how much is the velocity in the y direction at A, what I'll do is, here it was P, right? Now from this point to this point, this velocity in the y direction will change it will change with respect to x. So that's why v plus of, because it is in the direction of x itself, so that's why v is the velocity over here. At a it will be v plus of dou v by dou x, and what is the length of this? The length of this is a delta x. Okay, this length is delta x. So v plus of dou v by dou x into delta x will give you how much is the velocity component in the y direction at point A. Okay, now similarly let us calculate how much is the velocity at this point, at point B. So now at point B I am calculating how much is the velocity in the x direction. So here it is u, so the u will change with respect to this distance. So let me call this distance as delta y. Okay, so this is delta y. So the velocity at point B in the x direction will be equal to u plus of dou v by dou y. It will be dou v by dou y into delta y. Okay, so once we calculate how much is the velocity component at P, and we calculate how much is velocity component in y direction at A, we calculate how much is the velocity component in x direction at B. Okay, now assume that it will rotate. Okay, if it rotates over here, when it rotates, it changes its position from delta, it rotates around this axis. Because of that, you can see that there is an angular deformation. So the angular deformation over here at this axis, where this line PA will change to new position, which is called PA dash. So the angle between PA and PA dash is delta theta 1. Okay, now the angular deformation between the line PB and PB dash is delta theta 2. Okay, now the deformation that has taken place, if I try to calculate how much is the rate of change of deformation, angular deformation at these two, I could be able to calculate how much is the omega. Omega is nothing but the angular velocity, right? So what we can do is delta theta 1 divided by dt. Dt is representing the change of time. Okay, so this delta theta 1 has changed over a time dt, right? So if I take delta theta 1 by dt, it will give me the angular velocity of line PA. Similarly, if I take the delta theta by delta theta 2 by delta t, it will give me the angular velocity of PB. Okay, now we'll see what will be the omega in the x direction of that particle later. First we'll try to identify what is this equation that is given to you. Okay, so I'm trying to find out what is the change of theta 1 with respect to time, and I'm trying to find out how much is theta 2 with respect to time. Okay, now let us try to define this equation. Okay, so to define this equation, what I'll do is I'll see how much is the velocity at point A and how much was the velocity at P. Okay, so the velocity at point A is v plus of dou v by dou x into delta x. Okay, so this gives you how much was the velocity at A, and let us see how much is the velocity at P. At the P, the velocity was equal to v. If I take the difference of these two, it will give me how much is the velocity, the change of velocity from point A to point B. Okay, so this is represented by change of velocity. These two are representing the change of velocity. If I multiply with the delta t, it will give me the distance. Okay, so how much is the variation that has taken place. Okay, now if it is divided by delta x, okay, now as there is already delta t here, so substituting delta t, so this term was representing, okay, if I'm calculating how much is the change of this delta, what I need to do, I have to take the difference of velocity at A and velocity at P and divide it by the distance delta x. Okay, so that is giving me how much is the change that is happening with theta 1. So if I once find out how much is theta 1, I can divide by dt. See what is theta 1? Theta 1 is opposite by adjacent. It will become, if you want to calculate opposite, what we need to do, we have to take the difference of velocities multiplied by delta t. It will give you opposite, and the adjacent we already know, which is delta x. So this whole term is representing the opposite, and this delta x is representing adjacent. Okay, so opposite by adjacent will give you theta 1, and theta 1 divided by dt is there, so dt is there. So you can simplify this, dt get cancelled. Now if you further simplify this, what is left over is only dv by dx. Okay, now we have calculated how much is WPA, omega PA. Omega PA is representing the angular velocity of line PA. Now we can go for calculating how much is omega PB. Omega PB is representing the angular velocity of line PB, okay, which is delta theta 2 by delta t. Now let us go to delta theta 2. Let us define what is delta theta 2. So the small change in the angle at this point will be equals to, now what is the velocity at this point? It is u plus of dv by dy. Here at the point P it is u. So again u plus of dv by dy, du by dy into delta y minus of u will give you the difference of velocities at P and B. If it is multiplied by delta t, it will give you the opposite side of the angle, okay. Now divided by delta y is the adjacent, opposite is there from the numerator, delta y is giving the adjacent value. From this you can calculate the theta. So once you calculate the theta, again it has to be divided by delta t. Now see here, y minus symbol is there. Earlier if you see, when this rotation took place, theta 1 was rotating in this direction, which means it was in the direction of y, okay. So this movement of this line PA moved in the direction of PA, right? It was moving in the direction of PA. But here this line PB, when it changed its position, it was not moving in the direction of x. X was in this direction. It was not moving in this direction of x. It was moving opposite to the direction of x. See here, it was moving opposite to the direction of x. That's why it is minus symbol. So u plus of du by dy into delta y minus u divided by delta y, multiplied by dt divided by delta y is giving you opposite by adjacent, which is representing you the delta theta 2. But the delta theta 2 is happening in the opposite to the x direction. That's why we are taking it as minus and divided by dt. So this is giving my equation for WPB. Now if you simplify this equation, this is what I get, which is minus dou u by dou y, okay. Now we got to know how much is the angular velocity of PA. We got to know how much is the angular velocity of PB. Now according to the definition that is given by for the rotation flow, what we can do is we can take the average of PA and PB. By taking the average of PA and PB, I could be able to calculate how much is the rotation component in the z direction. So I told you rotation can be in the 3 axis. Along 3 axis there can be a rotation. Now if the rotation is taking place in the z axis, we can define the rotation in the x and y plane, right? So if the rotation is taking place in the x direction, the plane on which it is rotating is y and z, okay. So I told you earlier also. So that's why now we have worked out for x direction and y direction. Henceforth the rotation component which we have calculated will be wz. Now how do we calculate the rotation component? It will be the average of rotational components or angular velocity of the line PA and PB. So WPA plus of WPB divided by 2 will give you WZ, okay. So 1 by 2 into dou v by dou x minus dou u by dou y, okay. What is WPA? WPA is dou v by dou x, and what is WPB? It is dou u minus dou u by dou y. Now similarly you can solve for x direction and y direction also. So in x direction it will be 1 by 2 into dou w by dou y minus of dou v by dou z. In case of y, omega y, the rotation component in the y direction, it will be 1 by 2 into dou u by dou z minus of dou w by dou x. So these are the rotation components in x, y and z direction. So if you want to find out how much is the rotation component of any particle in any of the direction, you can use this equation. So here in this equation, u, v and w being the velocity component in x, y and z direction respectively, okay. So if you know how much is u, v and w, if you know the mathematical equations of u, v and w, you could be able to establish how much is omega x, omega z and omega y, okay. I hope this is very much clear. Using these equations we can solve for rotation components in any of the direction you want, okay, right. So this is it. So in the next video we will be continuing with solving the numerical problems, okay. We are going to solve some of the problems on velocity, acceleration, continuity equation and rotational and irrotational flow.